Amazing, amazing. Hello, everybody, and just want to thank EY for putting this on, and congratulations to the 10th Annual Global Blockchain Summit. My name is Amateo. I'm the CMO of COTI. We are the all-in-one privacy protocol, and we are built for enterprise and a wide variety of use cases. I'm going to walk you through all of that today. But as Paul mentioned, I'm really excited today to introduce COTI Nightfall. So as Paul has discussed, EY had been working on Nightfall, and it's now in its 4th iteration and coming into its 5th soon to be a ZK Rollup. And we are very excited to be bringing Nightfall directly to Ethereum this year. So this has been a really exciting project. EY released Nightfall into the public domain, and we have decided to take this instant and deploy it within our privacy network. I want to give you a little bit of backstory about who we are and our privacy network to contextualize where Nightfall fits within the picture. So we have our existing privacy network that's powered by a unique encryption technology called Garbled Circuits. We're actually the only protocol that we're aware of in the world that uses Garbled Circuits, and this has been in production for a whole year. So for a year, Garbled Circuits has been powering in production privacy for a wide variety of use cases. And we just celebrated its 1-year anniversary and 110 million transactions on the network. A couple things about it and some use cases that have been really fascinating. We recently had a case study where a supply chain for vaccines in Bangladesh used our privacy technology. Those vaccines need to be stored and refrigerated in order to be transferred safely so that they don't lose their potency. They used our technology to privately encrypt that data because we specialize in multi-party computation, meaning anything that you need to do to compute logic, you can do with privacy. And they were able to do 10 million transactions with 0 data leakage and 0 errors, and it cost them $5. We also have the first privacy RWAs coming to our blockchain with our partner Zonex that are live now on testnet and coming to mainnet soon. And we also, if you're familiar with the sort of notorious liquidity protocol Bancor, they use our technology extensively to power arbitrage, where they do 60,000 transactions a day that they're able to leverage to utilize arbitrage, get money out of those opportunities before those opportunities get attacked by other bots who monitor arbitrage all over these networks. So those are just a few examples of how our technology has been used in privacy in production. And we are very focused in Ethereum. We're going to be bringing Garbled Circuits to Ethereum. That's a little bit about what we have done, but we're also really excited today to talk about Nightfall and the work that we're doing to bring Nightfall to Ethereum mainnet this year to launch alongside. So you have this sort of open protocol that's fast and lightweight to power privacy, and then you also have this enterprise-grade, enterprise-ready technology that is Nightfall that we are going to allow enterprises to enable and use. You've heard throughout this entire 3 days, the biggest blockers are privacy and compliance. Nightfall was designed in a really brilliant fashion to satisfy both of those things, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So I want to talk a little bit about Nightfall's use cases. Paul, I hope you're taking notes here. Essentially, Nightfall is a really dynamic protocol, first and foremost, when it comes to data. So if you are a business that needs to transfer data between each other, you can do that in a secure and encrypted fashion without leaking that sensitive data. Sensitive data logic is a huge issue, especially when it comes on chain. I think we've talked a lot about so much of the tokenized world coming on chain. I think we're going to consistently see more and more business data and more business logic come on chain, and that is really important for it to be private. We also have payments. So this is payments between businesses themselves, that they can conduct those payments between each other without revealing counterparties, without revealing wallet amounts, and without revealing the underlying transactions of who's receiving what, but being able to do that in a secure fashion that's also able to satisfy regulatory requirements. Nightfall was also really well designed to be able to handle supply chain logic, which is really cool. We've got experience in working with supply chain logic. We're very excited about this particular use case because, as you all know, supply chains have tons of inefficiencies in between them, but the actual consistent tracking from point A to point Z is very critical. All of those things need to be tamper-proof within a ledger, but there's a huge host of reasons why supply chain logic needs to and should stay private, and we're excited to see those use cases be built on COTI Nightfall. Financial services, we've talked a lot about this in the last few days, right? The tokenization of everything, securities, digital assets, RWAs. I think that this event was the first time that I heard a majority consensus from the major institutions in the 7 years that I've been in the industry that everyone agrees. They just agree wholeheartedly that the assets that exist in the real world are coming on chain. I don't think we've ever had that kind of consensus before. I don't think we've ever had as much mutual consensus that this will take place within Ethereum and layer 2s as they've really revealed to us this week. I was actually speaking with a woman from the Ethereum Foundation and said that this time a year ago, this consensus didn't exist. It wasn't even close to where it is today. And this is really remarkable. So these financial services are going to increase this process, and we're excited to bring many of those to Nightfall. And then, of course, digital ownership. This is a really cool piece because Nightfall has identity built into it so that you can have identity at the protocol level. And I'll touch on that more in a moment, but so that you can have verifiable who owns what on chain. This is a very critical piece of Nightfall. And then, of course, as mentioned, the tokenization. So all of these assets moving on chain, we can identify who issued them. We can identify who needs to be compliant with whom, make sure that those compliant requirements are set up, then build the business logic for the transfer of these assets or for business to take place. And all of it is able to happen about 3.5 times faster on Nightfall currently, and I'm sure that that will increase than it does on Ethereum. So you've got an order of magnitude greater speed, you have the immutability of Ethereum, but you also have this complex business identity and compliance logic that's built into it. So let's talk a little bit more about that compliance logic. As we work on this instance and bring it to testnet in the coming weeks and then further into mainnet, it really is built for regulation, compliance, and business. And I think that there's just so much attention when it comes to banks, when it comes to the biggest asset managers of the world. We really feel like there's a huge opportunity for the millions of businesses, from the mom and pop shops to the enterprises, you know, that entire scale to actually access this ecosystem and this world. And that's something that we're really pushing for and that we're very passionate about. We think that the big institutions are going to lead the way in this in a very notable fashion. I don't know if anyone would have bet on that 10 years ago, that they would be the ones to be the leaders in taking the leap, but today they really are. But for whether it's a business or an enterprise, they can access the AML KYC flows. That's actually using X509 protocol. Those are the same identity protocols that standardize the internet. So it's a standardized protocol that's going to be brought down to the AML KYC level that we know is essential for working with different regulatory bodies. Paul asked a question about how, to the panel before me, about how they think about handling the compliance logic, and we just see that as logic. What's your business? What's the regulatory body, and where are you doing business? What needs to be satisfied, and what are the checks and balances that need to be met? What are the credentials that need to be revealed, and to whom? That needs to be programmable. We take that same approach. And the more that programmability becomes logic, it's actually baked into the chain, it's baked into the smart contract, the faster assets can flow, the more global commerce can open. And that leads me to my next point, which is counterparty verification. And that essentially is just assuring that no matter who is doing business, that everything is verified, that you know that it's a safe transaction, and that the information of that transaction isn't revealed. So there's been quite a bit of talk about privacy recently. A lot of the big names have been mentioning this. And I think one of the big things around this is that the idea of, in a world where AI is abstracting everything, the moat continues to dry up where a lot of people thought they had it. It's a very concerning issue, but privacy actually is a moat itself. Because if you bring assets into a private network, those assets are coming in, it's going to be more difficult to bring them out. So the reason why you see these institutions be so forward in thinking about privacy is they understand that there is a moat opportunity here, and they want to take advantage of that moat as early as possible to bring those assets to the native chains that they do so that they live with inside of it, and that's where they operate in business. And so having these pieces is really clear. I mentioned supply chain. With that comes audit trail. So if an asset, a tokenized asset, a product, a physical good moves from one place to the next, you need to be able to track each step of that, but you can't necessarily always reveal the underlying information involved. This is really critical, and this is actually something that EY, before bringing Nightfall to the open world, spent a lot of time on. Nightfall is extremely good when it comes to handling supply chain and audit trail logic while keeping the underlying information private. And that, of course, means that whoever was the originator is verified, and you're able to prove that, even if you're not going to reveal their identity. And that can mean maybe it's a thumbs up, maybe it's a checkbox to just ensure that whoever issued this asset is where it came from, and whatever that asset is has the logic attached to it, has the metadata, has the information to ensure that it is accurate and that it is real. And then, of course, no centralized gatekeepers. This means that the identity piece of this is accessible and is open, and that there's multiple issuers to it so that anyone can join and anyone can build on this. We're really big on open networks. We want to create an environment where anyone can build, that these docs are open source, and that you can access privacy for your use case, but in a way that's not going to get you into trouble. It's really important that we hit these KYC, AML, and compliance needs. I think when we look at the state of things, I think it's going to be the innovators that take the leap here. I don't know necessarily that the big institutions are going to take on some of these risks, but those who want to do business in a global way while protecting this private data, understanding that this is an opportunity, a massive opportunity to break ground in new business territory, are going to leverage private networks. Because again, when so much of the moats are drying up so quickly, when technology and software is being abstracted every single day, it's going to be able to be the preservation and the protection of this information and the ability to transfer and move it in a secure fashion, which is the next step of where we see this headed. So with that, I'm really excited to have introduced COTI Nightfall today, and to be brought here by the EY team to be able to do this. I got a little form if you would like to connect. Would love to connect with any of you, both online and live, who are interested in exploring building on Nightfall and working together. We're highly collaborative, and would love to speak to you. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Claire.
congratulations.
Appreciate it.
We're so excited for you.